So if anyone is new, my name is John McConnell, and this course is based on the book Breaking Through the Darkness: How to Defeat Depression, Anxiety and Stress Using a Spiritual Perspective. So what I'm going to do is to do a relaxation exercise with you to begin with. And then we'll do a very, very brief resume of last week, just to bring people up to speed. And then we'll start on the second part of the course. So if everybody could make sure that they're muted, please, so we don't get any interruptions. And also, if you have pen and paper to hand, that would be handy, because I'll be asking you a question or two now and then throughout the next hour and a half. So we're here until 7:30, and hopefully, you'll enjoy it and take a lot of benefit. So as always, we'll just start with relaxing, because that will bring us into the here and now. It will help us to focus our minds, clear our minds, and get us ready for what is a very important topic. So if you'd just like to make sure you're sitting upright with your feet on the floor and your hands open on your thighs. And then start breathing slowly and deeply and gently through your nose. So you're filling your lungs from the bottom to the top by breathing in through the nose. Then hold the breath for the count of 3. And slowly release through the mouth. And as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in a gentle, golden, glowing energy. Very peaceful energy. And imagine this energy is filling up your head, relaxing everything in your head, your eyes, your tongue, your jaw, your brain. Everything in the head is relaxing. And then visualize this golden, glowing, gentle energy passing down through your throat, relaxing all your throat muscles, and then spreading out across your shoulders, relaxing your shoulders, and also then going down through your arms to your fingertips, relaxing the hands and relaxing the arms. And then visualize it going through the trunk of your body. So the whole of your trunk of your body is filled with this gentle, glowing, relaxing energy, which relaxes all your internal organs. Your heart and your lungs and all your stomach muscles. Everything is becoming relaxed and peaceful. And then visualize it going down through your legs to your tips of your toes. Relaxing your legs, relaxing your feet. So now the whole body is filled with this lovely, glowing, gentle, peaceful energy. Which relaxes your mind as well as your body. and helps you to feel very peaceful. And in this peaceful state, just think to yourself, why am I here? And what do I want to get from this session on breaking through the darkness? And any answers you have to that question, just write down on a piece of paper. And then just look around you, become aware of your surroundings, and then smile. So smiling is a very good antidote to feeling stressed or anxious or depressed. So it's always worthwhile smiling. Okay, so if you have any questions at all at any time, please feel free to use the chat box at the side. I'm going to be sharing with you a PowerPoint, and I'll be talking to the PowerPoint. And if you have any questions at all about anything I'm saying or any observations, please feel free to use the chat box there, and I'll look at it every now and then. Okay, so I'm just going to share the screen now then with the breaking through the darkness. Here we go. So I'm going to start off with just very briefly going through what we did last week for the benefit of everybody, to remind you. And if you weren't here last time, then it will help you to realize where we're coming from and what we're doing. So as you can see there's the title, and underneath that there is this learning to be happy, which is the sub title to it. And that's a reminder that we are by nature happy creatures. We would say happy souls, because I'm coming from the perspective of the Brahma Kumaris, which is a worldwide spiritual organization. And we do spend a lot of time reflecting on things like, who am I? And all the different qualities of the soul. So, and our understanding is when we first come onto the earth into a body, we are very happy, as well as very peaceful and loving and full of power and energy. And life is really exciting and interesting, and we really enjoy it in every way. So basically, we're wanting to get back to that state, because at the moment, the world is going through a very dark phase, and there's all sorts of different things happening, isn't there, as we're well aware of. So, yes. So, yeah, we're taking a spiritual perspective to everything, and based on the understanding that we're more than a body, there's a being in the body, a spirit or a soul, a conscious energy. And really what we're doing, is helping the soul to understand what's going on, why it's going on, so that the soul then can adjust and change and return to its original state. So in the first session last week, we defined depression and anxiety. We recognized the different states of unhappiness, and we also looked at the causes. And I outlined that basically we're going to go through a 4-step process. And so part 2 this week, we'll be looking at the first 2 of the 4 steps. And that's going to be looking at understanding the mind and the body connection and thinking positively. And then next week, in the final session, we'll be looking at the importance of being soul conscious and connecting with the light. So remember, we're not born depressed, anxious, or distressed. We become depressed, anxious, or distressed, or stressed. So this is an important realization. And when we accept this truth about ourselves and take responsibility for our life, including our negative state of being, we will be able to start breaking through the darkness. So we went through the definitions. I won't repeat them because it's on a recording, which you can look at on YouTube. And also at the end of the course, anybody who wants a copy of the PowerPoint, I'll happily give you a copy. And if there's anyone out there who's really good at making interesting PowerPoints, then please contact me, because as you can see, my PowerPoint skills are rather limited to a very simple form. So if anyone's got any great ideas for making it more interesting to look at, I'd appreciate it. So yeah, we've got the definitions there. So depression is a mental condition characterized by feelings of severe despondency and dejection, typically also with feelings of inadequacy and guilt. Stress is a fear-based reaction to a feeling of being out of control due to excessive pressure. And anxiety is a state of persistent excessive worries that carry on even in the absence of a stressor. So a feeling of nervousness, fear of the future, something bad is going to happen. So we looked at some of the signs of unhappiness, and then we looked at the influences on the soul. And so there are general influences which we all have to experience or we're aware of, like the economic situation, the environmental crisis, all the social change that's going on, the political situation, and obviously, especially at the moment, the war in Ukraine. And there's a general feeling that things are falling apart, and we can feel disconnected and insecure and alienated. So those are the general influences on us all. And then there may be personal influences, external influences, our own particular situation or circumstances. So we may have health issues, or other people may have them that we're caring for, relationship challenges. Financial hardship is a really big one at the moment, as we're all aware. Housing issues, carer responsibilities, because a lot of carers end up burning out caring for the ones that they love. Then there's the death of a loved one, or just a general lack of support, because we're living in a world now where everyone is cut off from everybody else to a greater or lesser extent. You know, maybe at work we may know some people, and if we belong to a particular organization, that obviously will help. But we may be living on a street where we know nobody. We may be in a block of flats where we don't know our next door neighbor. And the pressure, especially during the COVID period, on individual families, you know, has been intense. And it does have an impact. I mean, I've noticed it myself, not only in terms of my family, but even in terms of going out again and going to different places, or speaking in public in front of human beings rather than through a screen. I've noticed I've forgotten some skills, and sometimes I've had to sort of encourage myself to, you know, get on and get out, as it were. And then, of course, there are the internal influences. And really, a lot, it depends on this. Our personality type, the way we see ourselves, our attitude, our beliefs, our low self-esteem, unfulfilled emotional needs. And a lot of this really goes back to early childhood, and in particular to what's called adverse childhood experiences, or ACE for short. And so we did look at those. the different types of abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. And if anybody scores more than 4 altogether in these different categories, like if you were physically abused or emotionally abused or sexually abused, if you were neglected physically or emotionally, or if there were problems of mental health in the family or alcohol problems or a divorce, then all of that would have had quite an impact on you and would have affected your self-esteem and your feeling of well-being. Because as children, especially babies and that, we often feel we're the center of the world, and we often feel on a subconscious level responsible for everything, even though obviously we're not. And so we can end up with all sorts of unmet emotional needs and illnesses as well. So yes, all the behaviors there, the lack of exercise, smoking more, drinking more, taking drugs, etc., being obese, having diabetes, the depression, of course, the suicide, strokes, cancer, heart disease, all can be traced back to unresolved emotional difficulties from the past. And they'll all be to do with the fact that our primary needs weren't met. So we didn't feel valued, we didn't feel safe or significant, we didn't feel we belonged or that we were treated fairly. There's a whole range of different emotional primary needs, which if they're not met, then it leaves us feeling, pretty hopeless and helpless maybe, and forever looking outside for someone to give us the love and the attention which we never received as a child. So, that is all very interesting actually. And we spent the whole of the session going through all of that and talking to it. So I say you can watch it online if you want on YouTube. So having got that general background and that general understanding of what depression is and anxiety and stress, then, how do we overcome that? How do we return to a state of happiness? And again, for this to happen, there needs to be knowledge. We need to have some tools and techniques and some understanding about how we can change things. So that's very important. There needs to be a commitment and a desire to change. Well, obviously, all of you who are on this session now, you obviously, it's a Monday evening, and there's 20 of you online at the moment. Last week, I think it was 30, but some of those may be coming back later on, you don't know. But there's that desire to become happy again, because there's a deep memory inside that we've been much happier than we are now at this moment in time. And obviously, if there is that longing to be happy, then we're going to start looking for it. But the idea is, when we take a spiritual perspective, we don't look for it out there. We don't look for those relationships which will compensate. We don't go for the drugs and the alcohol and all the other things to make ourselves feel better. We're wanting to get to the root of the problem. We're wanting to empower ourselves. We're wanting to get control of our lives again, mentally, emotionally, and physically, so that we can become independent and strong and have a happy life, not based on, the big car or the lovely house, but based on internal satisfaction, internal contentment, really. And it doesn't come overnight. And we do need to practice. We do need to find ways which will help us. So this is what we're going to do now. Yeah, so part 2 of the course is the first two steps in the book. The first one is understanding the mind-body connection. And the second step is about the power of the mind and thinking positively. So we'll start with understanding the mind and body connection. And as this little quote here says, the mind and the body are not separate units, but one integrated system. You know, and what we act and what we think, eat and feel are all related to our health and our well-being. And that's what called Bernie Siegel. So there's a complex interplay between the mind and the body. So this step one really is trying to understand that from the body point of view, the physical point of view, because here we are in a body and that body has needs and we use that body to express ourselves. So, you know, if we want to actually be happy, we need to understand that connection between the two. And then we need to actually retake control of both the mind and the body. That is very important. That's one of our aims, actually, because if my body's out of control and if I become an addict to something or other, then it's going to take me away from my happiness, because I'm going to end up worried about the body or dependent on drugs or alcohol or all sorts of things. So I need to be able to take control of the body. And likewise, I need to stop my mind going down this dark tunnel into all sorts of fear and worry and negative perceptions of myself and others. So it's a dual thing. So when you're really in the midst of it, as I said last week, you won't want to hear any of this because it just feels like even more pressure. But if you're on the way in or on the way out, then the tools will help you a lot, either preventing you from going down the dark tunnel or encouraging you and empowering you to get out. So this is what we're going to explore now. There's a little note there, which I think is quite a useful thing to remember. The mind cannot focus on two things at the same time. So whether we focus on unhappiness or something else is up to us. Likewise, you know, if we focus on our breathing, you will become into the moment. We won't have time to be thinking about anything like negativity or depression because we're in the here and now. If I do anything in a fully focused way, it's going to help me. So yes, a good thing to remember. So if I'm feeling depressed, then there's a little message there saying, hang on now, you're not meant to be depressed by nature. What are you doing? What are you saying? What are you thinking that's leading to this? And then the trick is to switch your attention away from those sorts of behaviors or those thoughts into something which is going to lift your spirits, because really what we're wanting to do is lift the spirits, operate from a higher level. So just for a minute, if you'd like to think about the ingredients for happiness, you know, imagine yourself being really happy, or remember a time when you were really happy, and just cast your mind back. And then, you know, remember your behavior. How did you behave when you were happy? And just make a little note of these things. And if you can't remember a time when you were happy, imagine what it would be like if you were really happy. So how would you behave? So, you know, I may start dancing around the sitting room. You know, I'll have more energy. And then the effects on your body, you know, how does your body feel? Usually, you know, we feel more lively, we've got more energy, but we've got more enthusiasm. And then what were you feeling, you know, in your example? Delight, joy, pleasure, fun, excitement. And what were you thinking? This is wonderful. I'm glad to be alive. And then just on the screen of your mind there, just see yourself in this state, full of happiness. Just feel the way your body's lifting up and your mind is really feeling good. And you're just generally, you can't stop yourself from smiling when you think about this happy event or this happy time. A smile comes straight away. There could be a sparkle in the eyes. All sorts of things happen. So hopefully you're feeling happy at this moment in time. You may not be when you came online, but maybe, hopefully you are now. And that's, you know, there's clues in that then as to how we can be happy. And it shows the connection between the mind and the body, because when we were thinking about this happy situation, we were generating positive thoughts. And positive thoughts lead to positive feelings. And then positive thoughts and feelings have an impact on our body because the brain chemicals change. You know, endorphins and serotonin, the so-called happy chemicals, are released. And these surge around the body and give us new energy, new life, make us feel relaxed, make us feel good. So this is an important way of, you know, understanding that connection between the two, and how our behavior is the outcome of all these inner levels, if you like. You know, the thoughts leading to the feelings then impacting on the body, and then the behavior is the expression of everything that's going on inside. So this is part of the mind-body connection. So it's always important to remember those four different elements, really. The mind, and in this order. The mind is the most important, and then you've got the emotions, then you've got the effects on the body, and then you've got the behavior. So to help us to get into that, you know, we need to develop our awareness. And this is where mindfulness comes in. So whenever you, well, actually, not even when you're feeling depressed or a bit negative, generally speaking, if you can practice the, you know, a bit of mindfulness every day when you first get up, we would also say meditation, which is slightly different actually, but there's a strong connection between the two, because what you're doing is you're, as a soul, if you like, you're becoming the observer of your body. And the key technique, which is always recommended, is to start off observing the breath. So all your focus and your attention goes on to the breath. And because you're thinking about that and observing it, you haven't time to start going around thinking about how miserable you may be or whatever. So mindfulness brings us into the moment, into the here and now. It develops our ability to focus and concentrate. And this is really important. You know, if we want to become happy again, we've got to focus on the positive. We've got to concentrate on the things which make us feel happy, rather than the things which make us feel sad or miserable or depressed. So the mindfulness, it helps us to become more aware of what's going on in our mind and our body and heart, helps us to become the observer, or another term for that is the silent witness. So, and that automatically then leads to us becoming detached. And detachment is a very important tool for dealing with lots of challenges in our life. Because if we can detach from them, it gives us that space to look at things objectively and gives us the space to come up with different solutions. So, you know, rather than saying, I am depressed, you know, the observer would say, you know, or the soul would say, I am experiencing depression. So I'm not identifying with it, but I'm observing it. That's very different. Because if I say I am, whatever I say I am to becomes part of my identity. And, you know, so if I say I am depressed, then my identity will become one of depression, because that's what I'm identifying with and getting attached to and worrying about and enlarging, and you know, it's going to take over my life because this is who I am depressed. So we want to break that connection, that identification, because it's a thought. It's not who I am at all. It's a thought. And it's as such, it can change. I'm separate from it. I may have created it, but I'm separate from it. This is not me. This is very important. And then again, the mindfulness will relax the mind and the body, and then, of course, take our attention away from our unhappiness. So some form of mindfulness, stroke awareness, stroke detachment is a very important aspect of defeating depression and becoming happy again. So I'm just going to stop sharing there for a minute in case anyone's got any questions on what we've done so far, or any observations. Is it? Hopefully it's quite straightforward. So we're only taking messages in the chat box because this is being recorded, and you know, because of GDPR and that, we're not, don't want people to be identified in any way. So there's no comments or questions. Oh. Is depression suppressed anger? It certainly can be, yes, especially because you're actually directing it onto yourself. You are angry with yourself. You may be angry because you haven't dealt with the situation properly in the past, whatever it might be. You may be angry because you're full of resentment and bitterness and things like that, and blaming yourself for whatever has happened. So yes, I mean, if you could be more assertive and open up and talk about the feelings, and get into a dialogue and things like that, then the feelings would be released. There'd be an opportunity for some understanding, some communication, which could make things better. Okay. All right, thank you. So I'll go back to the next bit. So sharpening your saw, I like this. I got this expression from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if you've never read that book, then I would strongly recommend it. Because he was a Mormon, and he had, a spiritual stroke religious perspective on life, which informed his work. And he was probably the first person that I've come across anyway, but it's 30 or more years ago now, who actually brought spirituality into the personal development field. And so he talks about sharpening your saw, and he illustrates that with a nice example or imaginary example of a man who is busy sawing down a log, fallen tree, and he's trying to turn it into logs, and he's getting absolutely nowhere. And a passerby says, "Hello, what are you doing?" And the reply is, "Well, I'm trying to saw this tree into logs, but I'm just not getting anywhere." And then the passerby says, "Why don't you sharpen your saw?" And obviously if his saw had been sharp, he'd have got through that tree very quickly. So really, the same applies to ourselves. If we don't look after ourselves, if we don't look after the different aspects of our being, then we're going to end up being blunt. We're going to end up being exhausted. We're going to end up being far less effective than we could be. So he says we need to exercise all 4 dimensions of our nature regularly and consistently in wise and balanced ways. So what follows isn't taken completely from Stephen Covey. It's based on that understanding that, there are 4 dimensions to our being. Again, quite often we forget that. We tend to just think of one aspect maybe and focus on that. So the 4 aspects, and they need all to be exercised regularly, not just now and then, and consistently. So again, regular habits and routines, are very important. And quite often, when we're stressed and worried and things like that, those are one of the first things to go. We start thinking, oh, I haven't got time, I'm so busy, or, oh, I can't be bothered. And as soon as we start doing that, then we start going down a slippery slope because we're actually losing control. And I know from my own experience, if you don't have routines, then, which are automatic ways of doing things in a way, like getting up at a certain time in the morning, going to bed at a certain time at night, if everything becomes a decision, shall I get up this morning for meditation, or shall I stay in bed, whatever it may be, then it introduces a lot more hassle and pressure into your life, because you have to make a decision every day. Whereas, if it's something you always do, you just get up and you do it without even thinking about it. So the regular and the consistent, I think, is important. And the 4 dimensions, well, obviously the first one is, sorry, I'm having to do this without, oh, I can, that's all right, good. It's the physical sharpening, it's referring to the body. And, the key thing there to understand is that fight or flight reaction. If we get into a stressful situation, and actually all forms of anxiety, stress, and depression are negative forms of being, which do trigger off that fight or flight reaction. And when that happens, you know, the adrenaline starts pumping around the system, the heart starts beating faster, the muscles all tense up, and cortisol's injected into the bloodstream, etc. And we're going to be in quite a state of heightened alertness, which if we carry on doing that, it will have serious physical effects on the body. I think I've mentioned all that before, so I'm not going to go into that. But, you know, how do we stop that? So the relaxation, you know, the mindfulness, the slow, deep, gentle breathing, taking control is a very important aspect of the whole thing. Because if we stay calm in any situation, even if we're having, you know, thoughts which frighten us, or we're scared or whatever it may be, just taking that step back, staying calm, reassuring yourself, saying it's all okay, everything will be fine. Let go, let go. That will help us to stop that fight or flight thing and all the other things which follow from it. So then, you know, connected with that is regular exercise. Now, I can't say too much about this because I don't do it myself. Not regularly anyway. I do it in fits and starts. You know, if we were to do our 10,000 steps a day, which I do manage occasionally, or if we were to go down the gym or whatever it is that we enjoy doing, I think, again, enjoyment is part of happiness. Enjoyment is part of life. And if I can enjoy the exercise, then I'm going to do it more easily and it's going to have a good effect on me. So, yeah, so exercise gets the endorphins going. It gets the whole body, energizing the body. And of course, if you're feeling stressed, anxious, or depressed, your body goes lethargic because it's drained. There's nothing there because you're using it all up mentally and emotionally. So if you can even, you know, get out of bed and say, get dressed, that is a form of exercise. All right. And for some people, that is a huge thing, getting out of bed and getting dressed or having a shower or whatever. So don't denigrate little steps like that. Make it the start of something more. Maybe another day, you know, small steps at a time. You will say, walk to your garden gate and back. Build things up. So you're starting to get going physically. And then you'll start to feel satisfied and pleased with yourself. And then you'll start to build up a momentum, which will help you to break through the negativity and the heavy vibrations which are holding you down. So it's interesting now that some doctors are prescribing free sessions in the local gym for some of their patients who are depressed or anxious. And some are forming football teams. So there are the groups of depressed people who are getting together to play football with each other. And it's, you know, they have researched it. It's had an amazing effect. It's given them a common interest. It's given them a reason to get out of the house. They've started to get to know each other and talk about themselves, and it's had a big impact. So exercise can lead to all sorts of other benefits. So it's very important really to do what you can to exercise. Yes, I will. Okay, so again, connected with the body is, well, sometimes it's moving, but sometimes it isn't, is the diet. Very important, the diet, because that's going to give your body energy. It's going to help you to control your weight, maybe. It's going to inspire you to look and feel better. So drinking 6 to 8 glasses of fluid a day, Ideally water rather than alcohol or caffeine-based drinks. That will, get the body going. Reducing the comfort foods. There's the cakes and there's the chocolate, which does, give you a sugar rush, does make you feel better temporarily. But again, like alcohol, you get that little peak and then down you come, and then you need to get some more of that rush. And so you have some more. And then, of course, that can lead to obesity. And then that becomes then another obstacle, because you've not only the original stressful situation to deal with, but you've now got a body, which needs attention too. So I know these things are easier said than done, but if we can, at least reduce, our intake gradually, then things will improve. Now, again, meat, when we eat meat, it takes a lot of energy to consume it, because we're not actually meant to eat meat. I know we do, and it's normal and natural for people too, but originally we were designed for the grass and the vegetables and things like that, because they're consumed much more quickly and much more easily in our bodies. The meat takes a long time, so that's going to make us feel heavy and lethargic. Red meat now we know is linked with cancer, so it's not such a good idea to eat red meat. And then if you want to go further down that route, then if you're thinking in terms of the energy of the animal, the vibrations of the animal, I mean, animals usually are killed in a state of fear, aren't they? Their muscles will all be tensed up, which is one of the reasons why meat is quite often tough. And we end up consuming that meat and those vibrations. So that's going to have an influence on our mind, because of that mind-body connection. But again, with all these things, it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of awareness. It's a matter of willingness. Do I really want to bother with that? Are there other things which are more important? It's up to you. Then there's the, eating more fruit and veg. We know that's meant to be good for us. Avoiding processed foods. There's not much goodness in them. And avoiding in particular the 4 white poisons, which is processed sugar, salt, flour, and rice. And then again, on the energy level, if you can eat meals, healthy meals, which you've cooked yourself, if they've been cooked with love, that vibration will be in the food. That vibration then will have an impact on your mind, a calming impact on your mind and on the soul. You'll feel good if you've had a nourishing home-cooked meal, which is being cooked with love and given with love. If the meal has been just slung together and slammed on the table resentfully or bitterly, then the energy connected with that food will not be quite so good. So there we go. So watch the diet. And then the importance of sleep. Very important, isn't it? We need, so many hours sleep a night, but we want good quality sleep. And there's lots of things we can do about that. So actually, you could look through these quickly. Take the television from the bedroom. That's a very important one. Watching your telly in the bedroom is going to lead to a lot more stress, because it's likely you're going to be watching violent films or whatever late at night, or if you fall asleep with the television on in the background keeping you company, you're going to end up all that those negative thoughts and feelings going into your subconscious, and you're going to be dreaming about it all night. You're going to wake up feeling exhausted and maybe miserable in the morning. So very good to keep the telly out the bedroom. Give yourself 30 minutes to relax before you go to bed. And maybe during that 30 minutes, you could review your day and finish on a high note by thinking of something positive that's happened during the day. You know, if you think, oh God, what an awful day, and tomorrow's going to be even worse, then you're setting yourself up to have a bad night's sleep. And then avoiding caffeine and other stimulants in the evening, and instead drinking warm water, a chamomile tea, or something else that you enjoy. And for those of you who are warriors and you wake up in the middle of the night worrying, then if you keep a piece of paper and a pen by your bedside, you can jot down whatever it is that's coming to your mind, and then you can follow it through in the morning. And because you've done something positive to release the fear or the anxiety or the tension, you'll be able to relax and go back to sleep. I'm sure there's lots of other things that could be done as well. So there we go. That's the physical side of things. So maybe just for a minute, write down 3 ways in which you're currently looking after your body. And maybe then think of something else that you could do or you will do to improve your body's functioning. Something you enjoy doing, something which makes you feel good, because we want to generate feel good factors which raise our energy levels, which make us feel happy, which make us feel positive, which make us feel good to be alive. This is what it's all about at the end of the day. Okay. So we'll move on then. The mental sharpening. So just like we need to be careful about the food we eat, we need to be careful about our mental diet. And, you know, if you take in rubbish, what's going to come out? Rubbish. If you take in lots of scary films and things like that, then it's going to have an impact on you. So there's lots of ways in which you can protect your mind. So I'm just going to mention them briefly, but you know, you can come up with your own. So you could, you know, limit the use of your mobile phone or laptop and other forms of social media. You could unsubscribe from some of your social media accounts, because quite often it's going to be a lot of negativity. Quite often there's going to be a lot of anger, gossip, or things that could make you feel jealous or envious or whatever it might be. Important to listen to the news and know what's going on in the world, but maybe only do it once a day rather than every hour, like some of us do. And then mentally, you know, uplift yourself by reading inspiring books and articles, or watching feel-good films, or relaxing to music that you enjoy. And then if you can do your best to avoid people always complaining and talking detrimentally about others, that it becomes a form of protection too, doesn't it? Or if they carry on, then shift the conversation into something positive, something more uplifting. And then, of course, journaling is a great way of discharging all sorts of feelings which we're carrying inside ourselves. And then, you know, spending time alone in silence, giving our mind a much needed break. So I think at this point, we'll have a minute of silence, actually. So you can absorb some of these things, or just, you know, let go and feel good. So silence is rather nice, actually, isn't it? You can practice it anywhere, anytime. It can be very good at the beginning of a meeting, and then at the end of the meeting. It can help people to tune in and to relax. So, and then when you're in that calmer state, you know, you make better decisions. So you're protecting yourself actually from any forms of negativity when you go inside like that. So again, we're not going to stop there anymore, but you know, think about how you could protect your own mind. So these are what I'm giving you are ideas and suggestions. You know, there's loads more in the book. So you know, it's good to read the book in conjunction with this, really, because it'll make more sense. It'll reinforce it all. So moving on then. Yeah, so the other form of sharpening is the emotional and the social, and this is so important actually. And this is where a lot of stress and that is at the moment, because, you know, we are meant to be social animals and we're designed to share and care and connect with others, but quite often in our, you know, atomized society, that isn't happening as much as it has done in the past. You know, there was that book a long time ago called The Lonely Crowd, and it still applies today a lot. So really, you know, we need to have good relationships, don't we? We need to have people in our life that we trust, that we like, and then talk about our thoughts and feelings. And talking actually is the most important thing that we can do. Either talking, or if there isn't anyone around to talk to, then writing, but just expressing what the load we're carrying inside. Because when we let it out, we can look at it objectively. When we let it out, we can see things more clearly, and then we can start to sort things out, and then that will improve the quality of our life and our happiness. And again, never be ashamed to ask for help. This applies particularly to men, you know, because even in this day and age, you know, we are conditioned to be strong and silent and tough and, you know, keep our feelings bottled up inside. And this is where friends can help, partners can help. But again, quite often the partner, you know, may not feel up to it because they think, oh God, you know, I've got enough problems of my own without having to listen to his problems. Or maybe, yes, it can make you feel insecure. So if you can't talk to your partner or a friend, then seek other help. There's the Samaritans. There's an organization called CALM, which stands for Campaign Against Living Miserably. And there are 24-hour helplines and things like that. So if you go onto the breakingthroughthedarkness.com website, you'll see a whole list of support organizations, you know, which you can, with a click, you can get onto them and they can help you in some ways. And then the importance of listening, you know, listening to yourself first. And when you listen to yourself, properly, you know, in silence, and respect yourself and don't put yourself down or judge yourself when you're listening without that critical negative voice. It helps, it makes you feel better. And then you'll be able to listen to others as well, because as it says down the bottom there, it's not all about me. Now, when we're stressed, anxious, or depressed, you know, we tend to focus all the energy on me. You know, it's all about me, how I'm feeling, and we push people away because they will help, but they also need some recognition that, you know, they're human, they've got their challenges, and they need listening to as well. So again, you know, appreciate and value our friends and family. And another thing, develop a hobby. You know, that's a really important one because it gives you something to do, something else to think about. It leads to connections with other people. And then again, doing some voluntary work. You know, there's so many opportunities out there now to help other people. And in the helping, not only do you feel good, but you get the satisfaction of knowing you've helped somebody else. And then the last one on that list, which, has shot up the popularity stakes and is the solution for many people now, is getting a dog. The dog was a lifesaver for a lot of people during lockdown, and people really value and appreciate their dogs now, because they get company, they get friendship in a way. There's someone there who always loves them, and there's someone who will take you out for a walk, so you get some exercise as well. So really, all these social and emotional aspects, of sharpening the sword, very important. So again, think now just for a minute, what are you doing to sharpen your social and emotional sword? And what could you do? And then the final one on this list is spiritual sharpening. And this is really what the whole of the rest of this course is about. But as I say, Stephen Covey mentioned it as one of the 4 dimensions. And for a lot of people, there's only 3 dimensions in their life: the mental, the physical, and the emotional. And he's put it squarely there. And all these 4 dimensions are all connected, they're all interrelated. You have to sharpen them all. And so for him, it's all about the spiritual side. It's about value clarification and commitment, study and meditation. So really that value clarification is a good point to make. I mean, we'll be mentioning this a bit more later on, but when what your true values are, these are inner values which guide your life and help you. They help you make decisions, in terms of a job. Do you go into the caring professions? Do you go into the justice system? Do you go into the creative industry? Those decisions will be influenced by your inner values, by what is important to you in your life. So if you know what is important to you, that gives you an aim, it gives you an objective, and that's going to help you to move on and move up, not necessarily in terms of a well-paid job, but at least in terms of expressing your true inner worth and your true inner values. So it's worth thinking about that, because it gives meaning and purpose to our life. Okay, so that's the end of that. So the step 1 there of understanding the mind-body connection. So hopefully that's helped. So here's a little summary here, which I can't quite read because of the, if I move it out way for a minute. Yes, there's an intimate connection between our mind and our body. The 2 are constantly communicating with each other. And if we can tune in and listen to the body and also listen to the mind, we'll be able to understand what's going on and take steps to restore peace to our mind and our body, and obviously we'll feel a lot happier. So by sharpening the sword and renewing the 4 dimensions of our being, we will improve the quality of our mental health and our general well-being. Okay, so we'll stop there, and then I notice for a minute, and I'll stop the share, and then just have a look down here at some questions which 1 or 2 people have put in the box. And if anyone else has got the other questions to ask or comments to make, that'd be good. Right. There we go. So look, there we go. We've got dancing is a good thing that keeps people playing table tennis and sleeping well. That's someone else's way of sharpening the physical saw there. A question here: how do we discipline ourselves and not overdo exercising, cooking, staying too silent, sleeping, etc.? All right. What's the answer to that one then? I think if we're overdoing something, then we're going to get feedback, aren't we? If I'm doing too much exercise, other areas of my life are going to suffer. So really the awareness there, and then trying to control, because by the sound of it, you know, maybe the person is sort of like in a vehicle careering from one side to the other, really getting into the exercise because they haven't done any for ages. Well, I can be like this at times. And then everything else piles up and then you go over to do something else. So really it's being detached, being focused, having priorities. And then just generally, you know, doing what's necessary. You know, how many hours sleep do you really need? You know, if you're sleeping 10 or 15 hours, either you're ill or there's something wrong with you which needs checking out, or if you are depressed, then obviously that needs attention as well. So you've got to know yourself and then, you know, do your best to come into balance. I mean, all these things are highly subjective. I'm only giving general thoughts for you all. You have to apply it to yourself. And now, so someone here said it's more helpful to think that things are not happening to me, they are happening around me. Yes, that can definitely help. Yes, because it's depersonalizing it. Even people who are angry with me, it's their own anger, which is coming from inside them, which they're projecting onto me. I may have triggered it, but you know, it's still their stuff because they could have done something else. So there we go. Everything in moderation, overdoing things, correct there. And then the title of the book was The Lonely Crowd. I think it goes back to probably the 70s, that book. But if you look up Lonely Crowd, you will find it, I'm sure. I mean, I can remember the cover of it was loads of people in New York or wherever walking down the street, you know, and highlighting one person in the middle of it. Okay, any other comments or questions before we move on? Is it all making sense? If it's all making sense, could you put a little hand up? Yes, so yeah, thank you there. There's yes, very clear. Okay, thank you. All good. What is the language of the inner voice? Nina, you do ask challenging questions, don't you? Very good. And then someone else come here. Creativity in terms of dancing, painting, drawing is a multi-dimensional activity that makes you use your body and emotions at the same time. Correct. And actually, if you go below that, you'll find that there are values under that. There are creative talents which are part of the soul. Thanks for putting your hands up, people, by the way, that's good. Yeah, so our intuition. Yes, we're there. Diana has the answers here. We need inner silence to listen to it. So, I mean, the word that comes to my mind for it is a touching, a feeling. I ought to do this rather than do that. I mean, I've had that today with this because there was a bit of me which was rebelling and not wanting to just regurgitate this book, you know, in a series of points. You know, I want to be more creative and more interactive and not, you know, knock you into the ground with PowerPoints. And so I've changed quite a lot of what I was going to show you, even though you may think I've shown you too much already. It's a balance in all these things, isn't it? But anyway, there we go. So I'm aware of the time. It's 7:15, and yeah, the inner voice touches my heart. Yeah, I need to get on to step 2. Right, so I will go back into sharing screen. And maybe we'll go on for an extra 5 minutes because we did start 5 minutes late, but feel free to leave, you know, if you've got to go dead on. All right. So step 2 is, where are we? Thinking positively. And really, I think this has been one of my saving graces, really. It was an eye-opener, a life-changing moment when I came across positive thinking, because, you know, my world was full of negative thinking, just like the world around us is. Positive thinking, we think, oh yeah, I know that actually people who think positively are in a tiny minority. Most people are not even aware that there's such a thing as positive thinking, because we're constantly judging, complaining, blaming, putting down, and we're generating thoughts which have a very heavy energy and which depress us and suppress us. And that's, you know, if we were to use that energy inside us in a positive way, as some people do, obviously, then it's going to make a huge difference. And it will definitely improve the quality of our life. So, because we may not be able to change the situation that we're in or control the events, but we can choose how we handle them, how we deal with them. And so, yes, remember, we always have a choice. And I've mentioned this on other things that I do, because again, this is fundamental. Often, you know, when you're feeling stressed, anxious, or depressed, you feel a complete victim. You feel hopeless and helpless. You feel there's nothing that you can do. You're operating from a basis of fear, and you have a pessimistic attitude to life. Well, you know, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that that's right. And of course, you're going to end up feeling sad, stressed, angry, or depressed. But it doesn't have to be that way, because if we were to flip things over and start looking at things through the power of positive thinking rather than, whoopsie daisy, rather than negative thinking, it would lead to other things. Instead of being reactive, we'd be proactive. You know, yeah, this is a challenge, but I can overcome it. There'd be more energy there. There'd be that feel-good factor there. We'd start looking for solutions because we're feeling empowered. And actually, positive thinking really is all connected with a loving energy. Love is the energy which drives the world, actually, in a good way. Love eventually does overcome everything. But we have to tune into it. We have to connect with it. We have to open ourselves to it. And when we get into that loving space, we are going to be optimistic because there's hope. And we know that eventually love conquers everything, because the rest on one level is all illusion. And so we're going to end up then feeling glad. And glad stands for giving, loving, accepting, and being detached. So we've already talked a little bit about the detachment. Giving rather than taking opens us up to new things. When we're miserable and depressed and that, we take. We're just taking other people's energy, their time, their attention. We're using our own energy in a way which poisons us. It's toxic. And we're doing it to ourselves. Now, on one level, that's a sad thing to recognize. On another level, it's a liberating thing to realize. I am doing this to myself, so I can stop doing it. And I can remember once actually in India, I went to the meditation center there, and I went to see one of the senior teachers, and I was complaining about feeling miserable and unlovable and hopeless and helpless. And her reply was, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" You know, she wasn't saying, "Oh, poor John, I am so sorry for you." No, it was, "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And it's a good question. So why are you doing it to yourself if you are going down that track? And you might discover that actually you enjoy being miserable and depressed because it's a good excuse for not doing other things. It's a good way of getting people's attention. It's cozy, it's comfortable. I don't have to do anything else. You know, I'm so miserable and depressed, I don't have to worry about improving things, etc., etc. And all these people are flocking around me and giving me attention and saying how sorry they are for me and what a terrible life I've got. And for some people, you know, that's good. Anyway, there we go. Food for thought. Could be controversial, that one, couldn't it? Okay, so positive thinking is about creating thoughts which make us feel happy, healthy, and empowered. Positive thoughts have a high vibration. They vibrate at a level which inspires, takes us out, releases these endorphins. So thoughts like appreciating people and the beauty in this world. You know, quite often we go around with our heads down. We're so busy thinking about how bad life is. We don't notice the blossom on the trees, the blue sky, the sunshine, all those things which can take us out of ourselves and make us feel we are connected to something bigger than ourselves. Because this is important, feeling connected to something bigger, beyond. Accepting things over which we have no control, rather than getting all bitter and miserable about it, just accept this is the way things are. So somebody gave me a really good quote the other day from Krishnamurti, that the highest form of intelligence is observation without evaluation. Observation without evaluation. So think about it. I found that very interesting. And then again, if we focus on solutions to the challenges we face, make the best of everything, look for the benefits in it all, and again, have an inspiring vision of ourselves and our future. So we haven't got time for it now, but after this session, think about what's your vision for yourself for the future. If you had, you know, loads of money, you could do whatever you want, what would it be? And this will put you in touch with all that goodness that's inside you. It will help you, it will uplift you, it will inspire you. And then write it down, maybe even do a collage or whatever they call it, where you get pictures together and you put them up of your future that you're wanting to create. Visualization. So that's a little bit about positive thoughts. Then obviously, negative thoughts, hang on. They create fear and tension and anxiety, make us ill, spoil our relationships. It's a poison in the mind, and it's responsible for much of the despair and conflict in the world today. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to move this again so I can see it. The roots of many forms of depression, anxiety, and stress are negative thoughts and feelings about ourselves and others. Okay, so we want to avoid those if we can. So positive thinking, I'm going to have to go really quickly on this, aren't I? But I say you can read the book, you can look at the PowerPoint, you can get the recording. So positive thinking, changing individual thoughts like our attitude, our beliefs, and our language from negative to positive through focused attention and awareness. So again, an affirmation is a good tool. That's a positive, life-affirming statement which you make about yourself to replace old negative beliefs. So that's very good. And then moving on. Visualization. We're always visualizing things. In other words, we're always using our imagination, which influences our thoughts and feelings. But quite often we imagine or visualize the worst rather than the best. So we catastrophize. We're afraid of getting old because I'm going to end up senile, or I'm going to end up in an old people's home, you know, with dementia. You know, if you think like that, feel like that, and visualize that, your thoughts are so powerful, you're going to create that. And that's quite scary. That is how powerful our minds are. So we want to use that power to imagine a lovely future. So I'm getting on a bit myself now, but I'm going to use my mental faculties, etc., for as long as I can, and I'm going to be as happy as I can. And if I do have any medical challenges, then I'm going to overcome them, and I'm going to die happily one day. That's my visualization anyway. And then of course there's meditation, which is connected with the inner being. So we're going to be doing more about that later on, aren't we? Okay then, so a little summary of some of the things you can do. Put a full stop to those thoughts of negative, those negative thoughts, those negative fears. Refuse to actually indulge them. So if you go on that breakingthroughthedarkness.com website, there's a really good comedy sketch by, I forget his name now, an American guy. You'll see it's called Stop It, and he pretends to be a psychiatrist, and he has a patient who comes in, and she says, how much do you charge? He says, $5. I don't give any change. You won't be in here for long. I'll give you the answer more or less straight away. And she starts talking about things. I believe I can make myself sick. And he shouts out, stop it. And then she relates all sorts of other things. And for everything, he says, stop it. And so it's quite good, actually. It makes the point. Stop feeding the negative. Change expectations into hope. Now, you see, we have so many expectations of other people and life, and they're forms of trying to control others. And we can't control anybody or anything except ourselves. So if you expect people to be nice to you, we give you a cup of tea when you want, say thank you when you give them a present, you're going to end up feeling quite anxious and angry because people aren't doing what you want. So if you hope people will give you a cup of tea, hope with love, which I hope for quite often. That's one of the things I really like. I don't often get it, mind you, because I live by myself. Yes, and hope that people will say thank you. Hope that the weather will be nice tomorrow rather than cold or rainy or whatever. It makes a big difference. It makes it more fluid and flexible. And then again, if we can develop an attitude of gratitude for everything, all the good things in our life, you know, we're so fortunate, aren't we, in so many different ways. And therefore, again, appreciating people, not looking up to people, respecting people for all the amazing things they do. Checking our belief system. You know, we've got so many old beliefs from the past, you know, like the happiest days of your life are your childhood. Well, they're not necessarily, you know, or your school days are the best days of your life. You know, you won't bother looking for happiness, you know, if you believe that. So again, what are the driving forces behind your view on life? What's your perception? Check it out, change it if it's not going to help you. And then you use positive, proactive language. I am going to do this. I am ... whatever it may be. And remember, where the attention goes, energy flows. So look for the positive in everything and everyone, starting with yourself. So, hey, look, I'm doing quite well here. So there was a question here, which I'll just go back to, but again, you can do it in a minute. Write down 3 negative words you often use to describe yourself. Notice how you feel when you think of yourself in this way, like I'm lazy, careless, inconsistent, whatever it might be. And then write down 3 words to describe the nicer bits of you. And how do you feel when you see yourself in this way? I'm kind, I'm considerate, I'm intelligent. You know, you'll have a different feel. So which way do you prefer to see yourself and why? And hopefully you'll want to concentrate on the nicer bits. Okay, so the summary. The way we think about things has a huge impact on our mental health and well-being. It's either going to lift us or crush our spirits, depending on the type of thoughts that we create in our mind. So if we wish to escape the mental hell of, move this down here now, of negative perceptions, beliefs and attitudes, and replace them with positive ones, it's essential that we take a step back, look at our thoughts, check them, and if they're going to harm us, change them. And this process is known as check and change. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now because I see there's some comments in the chat. So let's have a look. And the next minute or two, let's see. Love is the answer, yes. Positivity, is it learned or inherited? I would say it is learned. So if we've had positive parents, then definitely we'll inherit those thought patterns from them. But quite often, because of the situations people have been in the past, and that, you know, where are you taught positive thinking? You're not. It's not part of any school agenda, apart from a very few schools. So, and the whole of our system is based on competition and judgment, isn't it? You know, we pay people to criticize films and plays. Our exam system is based on grading people so that most people become failures officially. So we've got self-denial. That's so true. Generally, we are surrounded as a young child by much negative things rather than encouraging things. And then there's someone here saying, thank you. Lots of appreciation for the link from Monday. Okay. And then a message from Nina to me. Time to wind up. Would also like the recording, please. Links and apology for the lateness from Diana. So I'm assuming that this will be put up on YouTube like the other one. And there's a couple of thank yous, so that's good. So useful session. Looking forward to next week. Thank you, John, and thank you to Brian, who's joined us.